viruses are everywhere. Over 5,000 viruses have been described in detail. But still, millions and millions of unknown viruses exist. They are living, or non-living. They are the perfect parasites. Virus is just a tiny bundle of RNA or DNA and a shell that uses host cells to reproduce itself and manifest some of the scariest illnesses on the planet. Therefore, let's sink in to find some details about top 10 deadly viruses reported for so far. Number 10. Measles. It is a highly contagious virus. 197,000 per year dies with measles virus. 200 million of people were reported as dead by the virus since 1863. It causes rash, high fever, and for weakened immune systems can be deadly. More likely to other viral infections, an incubation period of 10 to 12 days, followed by an unusually high fever and flu-like symptoms. Afterwards, a giant rash erupts all over the body, it generally centered on the torso. Measles is one of the deadliest viruses on Earth, whose body count mostly consists of children under age of 5, despite an actual vaccine that can prevent this virus from spreading into an outbreak. Number 9. Rotavirus. The virus can spread rapidly, through what researchers call the fecal-oral route, meaning that small particles of feces end up being consumed. Also, worldwide 453,000 children younger than age of 5 died from rotavirus infection in 2008. But countries that have introduced the vaccine have reported sharp declines in rotavirus hospitalizations and deaths. 2 types of vaccines are now available to protect children from rotavirus. The leading cause of severe diarrheal illness among babies and young children. Number 8. Dengue virus. We really need to think more about dengue virus, because it is a real threat to us, and mostly because there is no current vaccine against dengue. Dengue virus first appeared in 1950 in the Philippines and Thailand, and has since spread throughout the tropical and subtropical regions of the globe. Up to 40% of the world's population now lives in areas where dengue is endemic. Dengue sickens 50 to 100 million people a year. Although the mortality rate for dengue fever is lower than some other viruses, at 2.5%, the virus can cause an Ebola-like disease called dengue hemorrhagic fever, and that condition has a mortality rate of 20% if left untreated. Number 7. Influenza. 500 million deaths reported per year by influenza. The virus attaches itself to receptors on cells in the lungs and air passages, and the dead cells cause runny nose, sore throat, and other symptoms. No virus can claim credit for more worldwide pandemics and scares than influenza. Effective influenza vaccines exist, and most people easily survive infections. But the virus is constantly mutating and creating new strains. Number 6. Smallpox. Before 1980, humans battled smallpox for thousands of years, and the disease killed about 1 in 3 of those it infected. It left survivors with deep permanent scars and often, blindness. It was something that had a huge burden on the planet, not just death but also blindness, and that's what spurred the campaign to eradicate from the earth. It localizes in the blood vessels of the skin, and in the mouth and throat. Fortunately, smallpox was declared eradicated in 1979, as the result of successful worldwide implementation of the vaccine. Number 5. HIV. In the modern world, the deadliest virus of all may be HIV. It is still the one that is the biggest killer. An estimated 36 million people have died from HIV since the disease was first recognized in 1980. Powerful antiviral drugs have made it possible for people to live for years with HIV, but still this mass killer virus is capable of killing 3.1 million per year. It invades important immune system cells and kills them. Leaves patient open to death by other illnesses with lowered immune function. Number 4. Hantavirus. Hantavirus was first gained attention in the US in 1993, when a healthy, young Navajo man and his fiancée living in the Four Corners area of the United States died within days of developing shortness of breath. A few months later, Health authorities isolated hantavirus from a deer mouse living in the home of one of the infected people. More than 600 people in the U.S. have now contracted HPS, and 36% have died from the disease, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The virus is not transmitted from one person to another, rather, people contract the disease from exposure to the droppings of infected mice. Number 3. Rabies. Although rabies vaccines for pets, which were introduced in the 1920s, have helped make the disease exceedingly rare in the developed world. Over 55,000 per year reported as dead by the virus. If the infected one don't get treatment, there's a 100% possibility they will die. If left untreated after exposure, the virus attacks the central nervous system and death usually results. The symptoms of an advanced infection include delirium, hallucinations and raging, violent behavior in some cases, which some have argued makes rabies eerily similar to zombification. Number 2. Ebola virus. The first known Ebola outbreaks in humans struck simultaneously in the Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo in 1976. The deadly virus is named after the Ebola River in the Democratic Republic of the Congo where it was first reported. Ebola is spread through contact with blood or other body fluids, or tissue from infected people or animals. The virus disables the protein that prevents the spread of the virus from cell to cell. Nearly 100 patients reported dead per year. And the worst thing about the virus is, 90% die within days of infection. Symptoms that start with a headache and sore throat and progress to major internal and external bleeding and multiple organ failure. There is no known cure for so far. Number 1. Marburg virus. This virus was first identified in 1967. Marburg virus infected people develop high fevers and bleeding throughout the body that can lead to shock, organ failure and death. It spread through close human-to-human contact. The symptoms of the virus start with a headache, fever, and a rash on the trunk, and progress to multiple organ failure and massive internal bleeding. There is no cure for the virus discovered yet. Talking about viruses, in 2020, a new deadly virus disease starts spreading rapidly. The coronavirus. Coronaviruses are a large family of viruses that cause illness ranging from the common cold to more severe diseases such as Middle East respiratory syndrome known as MERS and severe acute respiratory syndrome known as SARS. Common signs of infection include respiratory symptoms, fever, and cough, shortness of breath and breathing difficulties. In more severe cases, infection can cause pneumonia, severe acute respiratory syndrome, kidney failure and even death. Standard recommendations to prevent infection spread include regular hand washing, covering mouth and nose when coughing and sneezing, thoroughly cooking meat and eggs and avoid close contact with anyone showing symptoms of respiratory illness.